Warning, I will be talking about spoilers in this review. If you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home, I recommend you to click off this video. I'll give you a few seconds to do so. Watch at your own risk. Okay, so now that you have been warned, let's talk about the first incredible thing that happened. Yes, Daredevil is actually in this movie. The crossover actually made it. The long-awaited rumors of him actually being the so-called lawyer, being there with Spider-Man, actually became a reality. And it's the first thing that we saw. A few people did went crazy in the movie theater. I will say in this movie we do see Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, struggle through his life with his friends, with MJ and his best friend and everybody around him getting affected because of Mysterio revealing his true identity. And you see him go through his ups and downs with everybody, and you really do feel for him. Of course, his only hope is to talk with Doctor Strange to see if there's anything that can be done. Doctor Strange agrees and says that it can be done throughout a very specific spell that involves everybody, including Doctor Strange forgetting who Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, really is. Now, what really messes this spell and the whole multiverse is actually Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, changing this spell around 5 to 6 times. And of course, because Doctor Strange doesn't really explain the spell that well at the beginning, so that's why you see 1, 2, and 3 changes and beyond, because Spider-Man doesn't want certain people to forget who he really is, like MJ, his best friend, Doctor Strange, and certain people around his life. Everyone else is okay. Now, what took me by surprise, and I was expecting when the whole multiverse thing with the villains, I was expecting to see scenes where they left off of their dead, like Dr. Octopus, the Green Goblin, and all the other villains. I was expecting to see like some type of epic scene from their past lives, and no, none of that actually happens. So yes, don't expect any epic opening scene with the villains. They all sort of come out of nowhere without no real explanation, no epic effects, none of that. Doc Ock appears under a bridge, a freeway to be more specific, and you just see him going haywire, creating chaos, and him confusing him with the actual Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker, and telling him, what have you done with my reactor? What have you done with the, pretty much where he left off with Spider-Man 2 and the Tobey Maguire universe. And obviously Peter Parker is like confused, like saying, do I know you and all that? And I have to say, Doc Ock looks really awesome in this. The CGI definitely helped him out a lot, and I've noticed his tentacles, or his octopus sort of tentacles, look much better in this. And by that I mean there's more action, he's more powerful, his tentacles appear to be even more longer, and that's something that I really do like about it. Now, to talk about the black and gold suit, that's no new type of suit or anything like that. That's actually the original suit that he already has. What happens is it ends up getting dirty, and he pretty much has to switch it upside down or inside and out, and he has to wear it that way. That's how it becomes the black and gold suit. Now, for the villains, I have to say that I'm sort of disappointed. Now, hear me out. Everybody got their own moment to shine in their own way with their own Easter eggs, but there wasn't no real threat to them actually coming to this universe. By that I mean you don't really see them creating any type of chaos throughout the city. You don't really get to see epic battles that really mean a lot between them and Spider-Man. Not like their original universes where they really acted really badass. Again, I'm not saying that they are completely bad, but they do have their own moments to shine, but not as much as everybody was expecting. The only one that really did took me by surprise was the Green Goblin. I would have to say he is the main villain in this story. He is a total badass, almost like a maniac, sort of crazy with the goblin and inside of his head and all that. There's this specific scene where you see Peter Parker sensing that there's someone in the room, because you see all the villains gathering up. Of course, Peter Parker wanting to save them. Doctor Strange explains that if they get sent back to the universe, they pretty much die by Spider-Man, and he doesn't want that. He wants to give every single villain an opportunity to live or change. How Strange explains to Spider-Man that it's not possible. They have to die. That's their fate. That's how this universe works, the multiverse. Peter Parker doesn't want that, obviously, and the way they get captured is Strange somehow upgrades the Spider-Man suit with magic technology incorporated with Spider-Man slash Tony Stark technology. So the way it works is he shoots his web with some type of magical trap that teleports them back to a sort of jail of magic where they can't get out, and that's how you see like individual sort of cells for Doc Ock, Green Goblin, the Sandman, and Electro and Lizard. So once every single one of them is captured, the plan is to send them back to the original world. Now you do get to see the villains interact with each other, like Dr. Octopus with the Goblin. They know each other, they know who they are from their universe. But Doc Ock knows that the Goblin dies, and same thing goes for Sandman. He knows that Dr. Octopus dies, and they don't know the Lizard, they don't know Electro, but they know each other, between their own universes. What exactly happens after that? Peter Parker takes them to this special room where he promises to help each and every single one of them in a way to change or revert them back to their original form. Like Dr. Octopus, his little machine in the back, the tentacles were actually controlling him and not him controlling the tentacles. So what happens is the Green Goblin agrees to work with Spider-Man, and he is definitely impressed with the technology that they have in this universe. Of course, it's really awesome to see, the Goblin interact with this specific Spider-Man. It's really awesome to see them, and it actually works. They do help Dr. Octopus. He is the first one to become a good person. Well, in this room, and you see everybody sort of staring at Spider-Man because he senses something bad about to happen. He starts to freak out. Everybody's asking what's wrong. Everybody's looking at him super weird, and he starts looking at every single villain, trying to guess who's the one that's gonna make the move on him. He sort of takes a little risk, shoots his web at the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin sort of looks at him confused, but then reveals like, yeah, you actually got me. I'm the real villain in this story. He starts laughing with his creepy voice and all that. And yeah, Green Goblin goes after Spider-Man. They have an epic all-out battle. What's impressive is how powerful the Green Goblin actually is. I mean, you see him, throwing Spider-Man through walls. And while that happens, Electro decides to attack Dr. Octopus. Luckily, he's not killed off like most people thought. He sort of runs away. Everybody makes a sort of run for themselves. You see Sandman, the Lizard, and all that. But the one that actually stays to fight Peter Parker is the Green Goblin. He's not mentally stable. He's sort of crazy because of the Goblin inside of his head. You see him talking to Spider-Man, telling him how he's a coward, how he's weak, how he never takes the right choices in his life, and he always lets everybody sort of choose for him, like the world. And Peter Parker seems to be fed up with his talks, and it's really incredible. I mean, the fight scenes that you see between them is extremely brutal. You see them going through walls, going through buildings, falling through floors beneath them. I mean, Peter Parker at one point just freaking punches the heck out of the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin just looks at him unfazed, like he doesn't give a shit about the punches. He sort of just laughs and gives him that creepy look like, yeah, your punches are not doing shit to me. I don't feel anything. Keep on punching me because I'm getting more powerful. I'm getting more crazy. And it gets to the point where, yeah, Green Goblin sort of puts Spider-Man down. He's super hurt. And yeah, he is about to kill him. His Aunt May is there, and she unfortunately suffers the consequences, and the Green Goblin actually does kill her with the glider, pretty much stabbing her and throwing her. And Peter Parker doesn't realize that, and even Aunt May, she doesn't even know that she's been like severely damaged, and she has like a big wound on her stomach. They sort of think that they made it out alive, and they're sort of like, I can't believe that we're still alive. They're so happy. They're having like their own special moment. And that's when she actually tells them, with great power comes great responsibility. I was not expecting that from her, to tell that to Spider-Man. And that's when they sort of realize that, yeah, she's dying, and she's like sort of like confused, like what's going on? I need to breathe, and it's a very sad moment. You really do feel for Spider-Man and his whole pain of losing his Aunt May, and it's a very sad moment. And that's when he really sort of takes a hatred for the Green Goblin and really wants to kill the Green Goblin. At that point, you see the FBI or the military pull up, and they actually shoot at Spider-Man. Quite surprisingly, they actually shoot at him, but he makes a run. For people wondering if the helmet actually got battle damage between their fight, no, actually the Green Goblin takes it off because he hears the voices inside. Yeah, as the original, that one creepy voice telling him to be evil. He is actually the one that takes it off and grabs a rock and smashes the helmet. And I was not expecting that. I thought it was a result of, an epic battle that the Green Goblin was going to lose his helmet and change to a different sort of costume and all that. But as always, the Goblin, man, he be faking that. Forgive me, I have changed. I'm a good person, Peter, and all that. His sort of creepy voice and all that. You know how the Goblin is. He's actually a Goblin in this movie. But yeah, for people wondering, the battle damage is actually not from the battle. It's actually the Goblin destroying his own helmet to sort of change or sort of prevent the voices from controlling him, but that's not the case. He is more crazy than ever in this movie, and you see that throughout the movie. He is like the main villain, as I told you guys. Now, here's my only problem with this movie. They sort of don't explain everything in a way that makes sense or in a way where there's bigger consequences. They sort of throw at you everything without no real consequences. As I said, the villains in this movie don't really go around the city causing chaos or anything like that. There's nothing at risk, even though they're trying to make it like, oh yeah, this is the multiverse, everything is at risk, everything is crumbling. It's not really like that, to be honest. It's all because of Spider-Man messing up the spell, and multiple villains are sort of crossing into this universe wanting to kill him or going after Spider-Man. Now, I will say major spoilers are coming up right now. Like, those are the biggest spoilers. You guys already know a lot of people have been wanting the multiverse to happen, and more specific, more than villains, they've been wanting the biggest crossover yet. Yes, that's right. The movie theater and everybody else on the internet went crazy. Yes, the multiverse, the Spider-Verse is actually real. It is real. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man, the first OG Spider-Man is actually in this movie. Yes, surprisingly. Now, you might be asking, how exactly are they brought into this multiverse? I don't remember exactly Spider-Man's best friend. I think it's Ned or something. Excuse me if I don't remember. I'm sort of tired today, but he sort of finds out that he has some type of Doctor Strange slash magic abilities. He can actually control and open up portals. The way this works is he, by mistaken, calls Spider-Man, but he calls the wrong Spider-Man through his mind. He opens a portal. You see this sort of Spider-Man in the background. You can't really make out who it is. It's sort of like a black, shadowy, Spidey figure. They want you to think it's still our Spider-Man, but no, it's like an alleyway sort of building background. As soon as he gets close, he waves at you or something like that, and you notice those big eyes. Yes, it is Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man. He goes through, everybody's sort of freaking out, confused. The whole movie theater is going crazy. I went crazy. Everybody couldn't believe it. MJ is confused. Ned is confused. They're sort of like, what the hell is happening? They don't believe he's actually Spider-Man. So they tell him, prove it. Prove that you're Spider-Man. With one arm, he hangs from the ceiling. They still sort of don't believe he's Spider-Man. They're sort of confused until he starts crawling like an actual Spider-Man. Everybody goes crazy. They can't believe there's another Spider-Man, another Peter Parker. And they sort of wonder and say, okay, that's one Spider-Man. They go on to open another portal, and yes, you guessed it, this one is the original Tobey Maguire. He comes in, he's not wearing his original costume. He sort of looks more like civilian type. He's wearing normal clothes. He waves at them, and they all look at each other like, what's going on? They're all confused. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have a little stare down there. They look at each other. They sort of have like a face off battle with each other. The Tobey Maguire pretty much disables the Amazing Spider-Man's shooters, therefore he can't do anything. He's sort of surprised how he's able to shoot them out of his hand without any sort of web shooters or anything like that. So they all agree that yes, they sort of felt something sort of being in danger, a Spider-Man asking for help. That's a little bit strange. As I said, it really doesn't make sense how all the villains and all the superheroes come in and they sort of feel that somebody needs their help or they sort of understand. It's sort of a mixture between our real world and their world. Like they know what's been happening throughout the multiverse and all of that. They know that this Spider-Man needs their help, aka Tom Holland Spider-Man. Now, I'm not gonna post the footage, but I will post the audio reaction of the movie theater for one of them. And you guys can guess that the second one was freaking loud, but I'm just going to leave the reaction to everybody right here. Listen to this. And there you have it. Between all Spider-Mans, they sort of have their goofy moments, talking to each other, fanning about each other, going crazy. It's really good, but it cuts to them going to the high school to find Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He's devastated because of what happened to his Aunt May and all of that. They sort of have a moment between the three best friends, his girlfriend, his best friend, Spider-Man crying together, and they sort of tell him, we have backup, we have somebody here for you. And the camera cuts to a lookout of the original Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man above in a shadowy figure. They come down. He's sort of like, what the hell is going on? You see them talking to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is freaking incredible. At this point, everybody was going fucking crazy. Everybody lost their shit in the theater. Conversation between all three Spider-Mans is actually interesting. Each one of them introduces themselves to, each Spider-Man, which is kind of funny. And they sort of talk about their past, what happens. Andrew Garfield says how he lost Gwen Stacy, which we know it's pretty sad. He couldn't save his girlfriend, and he pretty much says that throughout the years he's been living in depression. He couldn't forget that day. He's become weak. He pretty much lost his touch. Everybody sort of gives their own point of view of what Spider-Man means to them, what happens in their past, in their future, pretty much introducing each other to Peter Parker, Tom Holland, and Tom Holland after that is like, you know what? I feel so mad. I need to get revenge. I need to kill the Green Goblin because of what happened. And you have Tobey Maguire say, it's not worth it. Revenge takes you nowhere in life. And we pretty much know it. Andrew Garfield pretty much backed this up and says how Uncle Ben told them, with great power comes great responsibility. The epic line that everybody was wanting to hear. And pretty much Tom Holland is sort of surprised because he didn't expect them to actually lose their Uncle Ben as well. And it sort of gives a background story as to Tom Holland losing his own Uncle Ben in a way. And they pretty much tell him, you know what, if we're going to defeat them, we're going to do this together. Even though Tom Holland's Spider-Man was sort of pissed off saying, this is your problem, you gotta fix this shit, I'm not doing anything for this universe, those villains came from your universe, your world, fix this shit, I am done being Spider-Man, I give up. And that's how they sort of motivate this Tom Holland Spider-Man, telling him, don't give up, remember, you are Spider-Man, you are fighting for the great kind, you are a good person who helps others. Even if you help one, you are helping a lot of people. And that's where the whole powerful line, with great power comes great responsibility. It's a split between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire saying it at the same time. Pretty much the two gods inspiring this sort of Spider-Man to say, hey, even though you've been going through tough times, here we are. We never gave up, even though we lost the people that we loved the most, my best friend, my girlfriend, Uncle Ben. We lost many people in our universe. You shouldn't give up as well. You have a great power with great responsibility. It's time to put this into work and do this for your own sake. After that, they go into this sort of scientist laboratory where they sort of put a plan together to revert everybody to their original form or try to help them, like the Lizard, Sandman, Green Goblin, everybody. They sort of want to help them. He had Tobey Maguire say, hey, yeah, you know what? I always wonder how I could help Dr. Octopus or Doc Ock in my universe, and I sort of know how, or Sandman, and you have Andrew Garfield saying, "Hey, leave this to me. You know, I got this. I can fix and help pretty much Lizard. Leave it to me." And you sort of have everybody talking to each other, interact with each other. It's sort of a cool moment, epic moment, and it's funny. You know, they have their goofy moments here and there, and it sort of foreshadows something. Tom's Holland best friend goes up to Peter Parker from the Tobey Maguire universe and says, "Hey, is there another me in your universe?" And he says, "Yeah, my best friend, he died in my hands," sort of explaining he wanted to kill me. And he's sort of like, "Oh shit, man, so that means that I'm going to turn into the Green Goblin." It sort of foreshadows that, yes, his best friend will somehow become the Green Goblin, which is the Hawk Goblin or the New Goblin as we know it. And he sort of takes this like, "Oh shit, man, I better stay positive or sort of stay away from Spider-Man." He starts acting weird with his universe Spider-Man, like, "Hey, yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna stay away," you know, and all of that. And then you sort of have a moment between Tom Holland and MJ where they sort of look at each other. They're having a lovely moment, and that's when Andrew Garfield takes note, and he's sort of like, you can tell he's sort of feeling hurt because in his universe, we know that he couldn't save his girlfriend. You can definitely tell on his face, his expressions don't lie, that he feels really bad that, you know, he lost the most precious thing he ever had in his life, and he sort of feels hurt. You know, he gives him that stare and sort of tells the original Tobey Maguire, "Hey, you got a girlfriend in your universe? Like, what's up with that? Like, what happens in your universe?" He says, "Yeah, I have a girlfriend. I'm married to her." And I don't remember exactly if he says they sort of have kids or not, but he says that he shouldn't give up, that he should move on with life, and that eventually all Spider-Mans are sort of slow with love. Like, they eventually get there with their lover slash their crush, but it's hard for them, you know, because he says it was complicated. I had to go through multiple things to get, you know, my version of my girlfriend to fall in love with me. And he says, "Yeah, I feel you, I feel you." But if you guys remember correctly, Gwen Stacy is the one that died in his universe, which leaves MJ, or you know, Mary Jane, alive. That sort of foreshadows that, hey, the original Tobey Maguire says, "There's still time for you to fix your life. Don't give up. You're amazing. You can still put your life together and be the great, amazing Spider-Man that you are." Now, I will say this movie has sort of real life references and multiverse references where there's this scene between all three Spider-Mans, and Andrew Garfield sort of says, "I'm like the worst Spider-Man. I suck. Like, I'm really bad." And we have Tobey Maguire say, "Hey, hey, listen, you're not bad. You're amazing. You're the amazing Spider-Man." A reference to people saying that his version of the Spider-Man is actually the worst version of all three Spider-Man, because the amazing Spider-Man, everybody thinks it's the worst, that it totally sucks. And he took that really, really personal to his life. He got really broken because of that, like really heartbroken. And that's like a reference to him saying, "I'm like the worst Spider-Man. I really suck. I'm not really that amazing." Tobey Maguire is like, "That's not true. You're actually amazing. Get this together. You are amazing, all right?" Now, between all three Spider-Mans, they have like their own moment to freak out between each other, actually becoming fans of each other, like in real life. Like, they just can't believe there's three Spider-Mans, and they sort of ask each other, how exactly does the original OG Spider-Man's web shooters work? He says, it's like organic, it comes from my body. And they were like, "What the hell? You know how much I have to struggle to make my web shooters, the webs. I have to make that thing every single time." They sort of explain to each other, like, "Yeah, we can't do that. We're not original like you. We can't just, you know, push them out from our hands like you can." And it's sort of like a funny moment between them. And the epic moment when MJ is falling, yes, Yes, the Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield actually redeems himself at a second chance. This time, he actually saves MJ in this universe. He does things correctly, unlike his previous universe that he couldn't save his girlfriend. This time, he actually pulls through. He catches her, saves her. He's sort of devastated and sort of relieved, extremely like emotional. You can see it in his face how he's sort of happy yet again sad that he actually did things correctly. And you have MJ telling him, "Are you okay? Like, what's happening to you?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm actually like relieved I saved your ass." Like, he's sort of emotional. He feels really amazing that he was able to have a second chance at saving somebody, and he actually succeeded. He didn't feel like a failure this time. You have the epic stand between all villains in all three Spider-Mans. This is what you actually see. It's freaking epic. Like, this is absolutely epic. The funny thing about this is like they're not coordinated with each other. They sort of have mistakes, and then they're like, you know what, we have to work together if we're going to do this correctly. They sort of make a plan, and it actually works. It actually freaking works. And there's sort of Easter eggs between their past multiverse, like for instance the Amazing Spider-Man having his battle with Electro. The same sequence from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 repeats, where you have Electro shocking the Amazing Spider-Man. Same thing with Tobey Maguire, the Sandman, and Doc Ock, the Green Goblin. You have lots of reference between their original multiverse, and it's really awesome. Now I have to say, when the Amazing Spider-Man saved MJ, everybody was going nuts. Everybody was like, no, no, he's going to fail. And then when he actually succeeded, everybody was so happy. The movie theater was going crazy, freaking loud. I have to say that throughout the movie theater, everybody was freaking out. Everybody was going crazy, freaking loud, and I had a blast watching this movie. Absolutely, this is fan service to everybody out there. It's fan service for villains, fan service for superheroes, for everybody. You have the multiverse, the Spider Verse in this movie, something like Avengers Endgame. What's surprising? A lot of people were saying it makes no sense. Why is Sandman here? He didn't die. Well, actually, something like Tobey Maguire and the Amazing Spider-Man, something told them that there was something wrong between the universes. Like I said, it's sort of weird. They don't really explain it in detail. They sort of throw at you this idea, and it's up to you to put the pieces together. It honestly left me with more questions than with answers. But at the beginning, Sandman was actually a good person defending the Spider-Man from our universe against Electro. Sandman and Spider-Man were working together to defeat him, and he sort of turned evil. It was sort of weird. It doesn't really make sense. But anyways, the main villain is the Green Goblin. He comes back and he sort of has an epic face down between our version of the Amazing Spider-Man. Doctor Strange is back. He sort of is here to fix everything. He sort of warns everybody, like, I can't hold back in the universe. The universe is crumbling. They're coming through. Now you see supposedly those people coming through, but you don't really get a definitive idea of who they are. They sort of look more like light forms, like full of light, like spirit sort of figures. Now there's one figure in particular that looks like a eternal holding some type of staff. I could be incorrect, but from what I remember, that specific figure definitely looked like one of the Eternals. And now let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me. Now going back to the battles, yes, they were able to cure everybody. Electro, Lizard, Sandman, everybody was able to get cured and reverted back to their original forms, or somewhat original. Now the final battle is between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. They have a epic, brutal fight between each other, to the point where Spider-Man really wanted to kill the Green Goblin, because the Green Goblin was sort of teasing him like, you're so weak. I killed Aunt May. I killed everybody. I'm going to take everything away from your life. You're always weak. You fight for the weak. Pretty much haunting him in his head. And he sort of gets to the point where he's like, I had enough of you. I'm going to kill you. You legitimately have Spider-Man go back and pick up his hover or his glider, wanting to repeat the same thing that happened to Green Goblin, stabbing him with his own glider, killing him. And you sort of have this moment where Tobey Maguire jumps in to stop that from happening because they noticed, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire noticed that he's going sort of rogue. He's losing his mind. Spider-Man is like really, really going into the Green Goblin. You have this epic battle where Spider-Man is just punching the heck out of him nonstop. He's looking like sort of really violent, losing everything because, it's understandable. He lost everything that he had in his life and he's beating the shit out of the person who did it, killing him, trying to do it. They notice, they jump in. Tobey Maguire pretty much stops Spider-Man from killing the Green Goblin, telling him, no, don't do it. It's not the right thing. They have like a standoff between strength with each other. And he sort of convinced him that, yeah, it's not the right thing to do. But as always, don't trust the freaking Green Goblin. He stabs Tobey Maguire in the back and says, finally, you paid for what I have done. Sort of saying like, hey, in my universe, you killed me, aka I killed myself. Now it's time for you to pay, and I got my sweet revenge. And thing is, even after that, everybody was freaking out in the movie theater. Everybody was sort of sad. I was sad. I was like, no. Everybody was like, this can't be true. But yes, the Green Goblin actually does get fixed as well. If I remember correctly, he reverts to a normal person. Now by this point, Electro and Spider-Man have an interesting conversation where he sort of references Spider-Man Miles Morales, saying that he wasn't expecting this to be him. He was expecting somebody underneath the mask to be sort of black, sort of brown to be, aka Miles Morales. Who else could be taking that spot? And there's sort of other references to Miles Morales and other Easter eggs with the villains and superheroes and here and there, where, as I told you, with the Hot Goblin, the New Goblin, Miles Morales, and other things coming through the universe. Now, it's really cool because from what I remember, there was actually someone who was supposed to be Miles Morales, and that got completely cut off. And I'm pretty sure Miles Morales is coming. I mean, Tom Holland has already teased that he wants a Miles Morales in his universe. And something tells me, yes, it's bound to happen. It's really going to happen. So, anyways, all the villains actually vanish because Doctor Strange actually gets the spell correct this time. Consequences to this spell is everybody will forget who Peter Parker is Spider-Man really is forever. No memories, nothing. And that's sort of the price that Spider-Man has to pay for all of the things that he messed up throughout his life. Every big mistake has a big price in life, like they say. But I would have to overall say that this Spider-Man trilogy, this final movie, is pretty much everything that a fan could ever dreamed of. You have the original OG Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man. You have all the villains. You have all the action that you could possibly dream of. This movie is really emotional. It's packed with everything. And you really do feel for Peter Parker. You feel for all these Spider-Mans. You feel for the villains. And that's sort of why Peter Parker doesn't want to send them back to their universe, because you feel sorry for the villains if they could actually have a second chance to change and be someone good. Now, my overall review of this movie is it's really good. It's one of the best Spider-Mans that you could ever watch. It has everything, though there's ups and downs to it. When it comes to action, there's no real consequences to what they already put at stake. They say the multiverse is going to break. They say that the villains can't be here because they're going to go haywire, hectic, chaos. Yet again, you see no chaos throughout the city. The sort of decisions or the consequences really don't mean a lot in this movie. Sometimes they do, and others it's like no big deal. They sort of don't explain to you their backstory, how they got through the holes, what exactly happened to them. It's sort of more confusing than getting to the answers. If you get the idea, you get more questions and answers in this movie, but you sort of feel satisfied with what you get in this movie. Now, this movie is packed with a lot of characters. Again, you get the introduction to Daredevil again, Tobey Maguire, the Amazing Spider-Man, all the villains, and yes, at the end, you do get, for the end credits, Venom. Venom is back in Mexico. He's sort of having a conversation with this other guy, explaining how his family got snapped thanks to Thanos, and he's like, what the hell is going on? He's sort of confused. And when Doctor Strange sends everybody back to their own reality, Venom goes back to his reality. But the Venom symbiote is there. It's left on the table, and you know what that means. It's going to find a new host, probably Spider Man, Miles Morales, or Spider Man. Anybody else can take a new host. You can only imagine what's going to happen for the new host. There's lots of Easter eggs, endless possibilities with this movie. Now, if you thought the end credits scene was freaking epic with Venom, there's actually another epic scene. If you stay until the end, you actually get treated to a special first look trailer at Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I won't spoil anything for that because it is freaking epic. The trailer is beautiful. You get to see lots of returning characters that you are not expecting. And the main villain is out of this world. You are not expecting who the main villain is going to be. All I'm going to say is don't leave until the end credits. There's two credits. Stay all the way through and you'll see what happens. You'll be treated to a special trailer, and it's not a teaser trailer. It's actually a trailer full on Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and it's going to be extremely dark. Pretty much he is going to pay for the consequences of Wanda messing up with the reality with the multiverse, Loki, and pretty much Doctor Strange, what he did with that specific timeline with the multiverse, Spider-Verse. All of this is coming along, and everything is going to put back to pieces and come into play into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Everything has a consequence, and he's going to be paying that himself this time. Last time it was Spider-Man facing his demons, facing his multiverse. Now it's Doctor Strange, and it's really interesting. I would give this movie from a 10 out of 10. I would give it a 8.9 or 9.1. It's really close, but again, villains really don't feel powerful enough where they are like a real threat and they don't really damage our heroes. They don't really mean big business like their original counterparts. Action could have been executed a lot better. In my opinion, I think this would have made a perfect movie if they would have done the fight scenes even more brutal between the villains. Maybe villains facing off against each other, villains actually teaming up against all Spider-Mans to really damage them, to really put them through thin and thick and really make them bleed, suffer, and have really sad moments between each other and epic moments between villains and heroes where you see all Spider-Mans really working together to take down all the villains. But more than anything, it's sort of like villains have villains, superheroes trying to fix their own mistakes, trying to redeem themselves. And in a way, it works. Again, I'm sure this is going to satisfy most of the Spider-Man fans or Marvel fans, but I'm sure there's other people like me that aren't 100% satisfied and were expecting a little bit more better action scenes, something more meaningful to the story than rather, yeah, it's going to break and nothing actually breaks. Like, I really wanted to feel the consequences more than just forget about them, this is the end and all of that. No, I think, yeah, the movie could have executed a few fight scenes and bigger threats a lot better, like Endgame or Thanos, Ultron, Wanda, like other big villains. But again, it doesn't mean that the villains are trash. They're not trash. They're still unique. They're still their own character, but a little bit different with a new taste, with a new sort of redesign to their character, experiencing this brand new world, trying to escape their dead, and they're sort of getting used to all of the technology, getting used to that the fact that there is another reality, a multiverse, and they're sort of confused that they're alive yet again they were killed off. They have a hatred for Spider-Man. Yes, some of them do. Some of them want to change. Others really don't make sense. Like Sandman, he was first of all a good person. Now out of nowhere he turns evil just because. Like, there's no real meaningful like quest behind their meanings sometimes, if it makes sense. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's why I would give this movie a 8.9 or 9.1, really close to 10 out of 10. but unfortunately, some of them fall shortly. Though really great movie, still really great, emotional, badass. You live your childhood memories in this movie. It's real. It's all what you have been wanting. Thank you so much for watching my spoiler review movie of Spider-Man No Way Home. Let me know your thoughts. Share the video, like the video, and let me know what was your favorite part about this movie. Did you cry? Did you feel emotional? I would have to say everybody in the movie theater felt emotional. I cried in the movie theater. I felt emotional. I felt sad. It was a mixture between multiple things, and we all felt it, as you saw in the clip that I put. I don't want to put multiple clips, but yeah, we all went crazy. It was pretty good. The Spider-Man suits actually look surprisingly the same. I'm not sure if they're the OG suits or pretty much new suits, but they look great as ever. They pretty much look as you remember. They might have a little bit of touches here and there, but Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, they still look good. And I hope this is a redemption at them, that they could possibly come back from future movies. I really want Andrew Garfield to continue Tobey Maguire because there's story to tell. They pretty much tease that their life continue. There's more to the life. There's more than what we thought happened. Like Tobey Maguire looks different. Obviously, he's the more mature one. You can see his age. You can see that he's the more mature from all of them. Andrew Garfield, he's like the more cool type of Spider-Man, living sort of depressed, thinks he's, like the worst Spider-Man. But like I said, he's not. Everybody is great. They're all the best three amazing Spider-Mans. They're really great in their own respectful way. They do really great things in their own styles, and I really like that. I really do like that. And man, really great, awesome movie for sure. Thank you for watching.